conquered. You're certainly conquered by devotees who have control of the mind and senses. They can keep you under their control because you are causelessly merciful to devotees who desire no material profit from you. Indeed, you give yourself to them, and because of this, you also have full control over your devotees. Purport. The Lord and the devotees both conquered. The Lord is conquered by the devotees, and the devotees are conquered by the Lord. Because of being conquered by one another, they both derive transcendental bliss from the relationship. The highest perfection of this mutual conquering is exhibited by Krishna and the gopis. The gopis conquered Krishna, and Krishna conquered the gopis. Thus, whenever Krishna played his flute, he conquered the minds of the gopis, and without seeing the gopis, Krishna could not be happy. Other transcendentalists, such as jnanis and yogis, cannot conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only pure devotees can conquer him. Pure devotees are described as samamati, which means they never deviate from devotional service under any circumstances. It is not that devotees worship the Supreme Lord only when happy, they worship him even when in distress. Happiness and distress do not hamper the process of devotional service. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam says that devotional service is ahaituki apratihata, unmotivated and uninterrupted. When a devotee offers devotional service to the Lord without any motive, anya bilashita shunyam, his service cannot be hampered by any material condition. Apratihata. Thus, a devotee who offers service in all conditions of life can conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A special distinction between devotees and the other transcendentalists, namely the jnanis and the yogis, is that jnanis and yogis artificially try to become one with the Supreme, whereas devotees never aspire for such an impossible accomplishment. Devotees know that their position is to be eternally servants of the Supreme Lord and never want to be one with him. Therefore, they are called as Samamati or Jitatma. They detest oneness with the Supreme. They have no lusty desires for oneness. Instead, their desire is to be freed from all material hankering. Therefore, they are called Nishkaman or desireless. A living entity cannot exist without desires, but desires that can never be fulfilled are called kama or lusty desires. Kamais taistair hritanyanaha. Because of lusty desires, non-devotees are deprived of their intelligence. Thus, they are unable to conquer the Supreme Lord, whereas devotees, being free from such unreasonable desires, can conquer the Lord. Such devotees are also conquered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they are pure, being free from all material desires, they fully surrender to the Supreme Lord, and therefore the Lord conquers them. Such devotees never aspire for liberation. They simply desire to serve the lotus feet of the Lord. Because they serve the Lord without desires for remuneration, they can conquer the mercy of the Lord. The Lord is by nature very merciful, and when he sees that his servant is working without desires for material profit, naturally he is conquered. Devotees are always engaged in service. Savai manah Krishna padara vindayor, vachamsi vaikunta gunanu varnani. All the activities of their senses are engaged in the service of the Lord. Because of such devotion, the Lord gives himself to his devotees as if they could use him for any purpose they might desire. Of course, devotees have no purpose other than to serve. When a devotee fully surrenders and has no aspiration for material profit, the Lord certainly gives him all opportunities for service. This is the position of the Lord when conquered by his devotees.
Beautiful. Do you want to share anything on this, Lekha Mataji? This is a beautiful purport, actually.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, it's a very, very sweet purport, and it just highlights the sweet relationship that one can have with the Lord. Given that Krishna is like all merciful, powerful, like he's the Lord of the universe. Yet he has indefinite love for his devotees and people who are in the process of becoming devotees, and I think for any living entity, it's just amazing. I was actually reminded of two things, if I can share that very quickly. There was one line. There's this line where Prabhupada says that devotees don't even seek liberation, and there is this Divya Prabandham where it basically goes as பச்சை மாமலை போல் மேனி பவளவாய் கமலச்சிங்கன் அச்சுதா அமரரேரே ஆயர்தம் கொழுந்தே என்னும் இச்சுவை தவிர யான் போய் இந்திரலோகம் கேமின் அச்சுவை பெரிதும் வேண்டேன் அரங்கமா நகருளானே. So basically the Alvar here, he says that even if I come to liberate, even if I get liberated and come to Vaikunta, but if I cannot see you in this form or call you with the names as Achyuta or Amararere, then I don't even need that Vaikuntam. Like I want to just be in Srirangam. Like that's what he says, and that basically says it's just like I just remember this because Prabhupada says like true devotees do not even like seek. They don't even ask for that, and I was just reminded of this, and I was reminded of another pastime where Krishna gets conquered by the devotees. There's this guy in Kanchipuram called I just forgot his name. Mani. Let's say his name is Mani Vannan or Kani Vannan. I just forgot it. But his guru is also an Arvar. And what happens is the king of the state basically asks, I think his name is Kanivan. He asks him to go out of the state because he refuses to write a poem on the king. And because the student goes, the guru is very sad because the guru knows that he's a true devotee. So he doesn't want to stay in that place anymore because this place is devoid of a devotee association. So the guru leaves. And now the Vishnu deity who's in Kanchipuram, he is now sad because now the guru is also leaving and his devotee is also leaving. So he says, what am I going to do here if you're not there? And the guru says, okay, if you want, you also come. So there is this line in the Divya Prabandham, it says, un painaga paye surutikol. He basically says, fold your mattress that's made of snakes. So he's basically saying, bring Adiseshu also along with you, pack your bags and let's go. So then Vishnu leaves, and now the whole state is like deprived of rain. The fertile land becomes very marshy and unfriendly for any farming activities. No rain, just drought. So the king realizes his mistakes. He seeks pardon to the guru. He seeks pardon to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu points him to the guru. Then he falls at the feet of guru, and guru points him to the student. And then the king invites the student back. So now the student goes back. So the guru also goes back. And now Vishnu is like, what am I supposed to do? And the guru says, un painaga payai virittikol. Virittikol means spread your chadar that's made of snakes. And then Krishna just does that like without questioning, and he just stays there. Even now there's a temple there. It's such a sweet pastime because it just reminded me of how sweet Krishna is. He's just conquered by the guru and his devotee, and he just like does whatever they want him to do. Like he doesn't think, he doesn't question them. So I was just reminded of these two pastimes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful pastime. So first of all, so before we move ahead, so this is the start of a very important section, because this is the section of prayers offered by Chitraketu to the Supreme Lord. So these next 7 verses are all prayers. It's a very important section, and each of these translations have very long purports, because Srila Prabhupada is really appreciating the prayers. And here you'll see that the relationship between the Lord and his pure devotees is mentioned here. So it is said that they can keep you under their control because you are causelessly merciful to devotees who desire no material profit from you. So clearly it is mentioned here that a pure devotee has no other motivation. And that's why Srila Prabhupada also mentions in the purport, Ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. He quotes that, and then he says that unmotivated and uninterrupted. So there should not be any motivation, and it should be uninterrupted. So thank you so much, Lekha Mataji, for mentioning that pastime of how the Lord gets controlled. He chooses to get controlled by his devotee. Mm-hmm. And as we were discussing last week, there are 3 levels of devotees. It is the conventional devotee who says that he gives some things for Krishna. Then there's the committed devotee who says that everything I have is for Krishna. And then there is the confidential devotee who says Krishna is mine. Krishna is mine. He actually says Krishna is mine, which means that he knows that he can control Krishna. Of course, he's not saying this with arrogance or pride, but he's saying it out of love. So it is these three levels. It is the conventional devotee, the committed devotee, and the confidential devotee. So this week, I've been studying about the life of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And it's very interesting because he always had this desire to serve the Lord. And he went to this, everyone, I feel that all devotees go through these three phases. They initially start by being a conventional devotee, then they become a committed devotee, and then at some point they become a confidential devotee. So in his life, what happened is he hosted a devotee in his house, and then someone else committed an offense on that devotee that he hosted. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami became extremely upset that an offense has happened in my house. And then when he takes rest, Lord Nityananda appears in his dream, and then he says that now is the time for you to just go to Vrindavan. He gives a clear instruction that it's time for you to go to Vrindavan. And then in the next moment, as soon as he wakes up in the morning, he won't even hesitate. He just goes to Vrindavan. So the first lesson of divine empowerment is that we must be detached, not just detached, but detached from our own plans. We may have a lot of plans, but we must learn to be detached from our plans, which is what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami did. He became extremely detached from his own plans in order to execute the orders of the Lord. So he went to Vrindavan, and then the next lesson comes where as soon as he entered Vrindavan, he didn't want to enjoy Vrindavan Dham. He wanted to offer service. So he kept meditating, how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? So that is the second lesson for divine empowerment, is that the first is, of course, detachment from our own plans. The second is to have this strong desire to serve the Lord. And the third one is, the third lesson is, so then several devotees started meeting Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and then he started asking each and every one of them, how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? And it is at this point that he was told by many devotees to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then he felt so unqualified, but he said one thing. He said that if the devotees are asking me to do something, I should just do it. And that is the third lesson of divine empowerment. The third lesson of divine empowerment is where we just accept what the devotees tell us as if those are coming from the Lord. And if we do these three things and start executing that service, then it is said that we do get the divine empowerment. The most important thing in these three lessons is that one should be flexible. If one is too rigid, then this kind of empowerment does not happen. Because if one is too rigid, then we will stick to our own plans. But if one is flexible, then we will be detached from our plans. And that is extremely important. So after these three phases, there is another phase. That phase is where you must execute that service in the mood of complete dependence of the Lord and with extreme humility. So if you read any chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the last verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is glorifying Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and all the Goswamis, and he's just saying that he's just a very, very small instrument. And everything is being written because of their mercy on him. So without humility also, the divine empowerment will go away. So I just wanted to share this, and that is how we can elevate our consciousness and go closer and closer to Krishna. So thank you, Lekha Mataji. Anybody else wants to share anything on this? Okay. So next, text number 35. Nupur, would you like to read?
Yes, Ruji. Yes, Ruji. Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Text 35. Tava vibhava khalu bhagwan Jagad Udaya Sthiti Layadini Vishwasrajaste Amshas Tatra Mrishas Vardhanti Prithak Avimadya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. My dear Lord, this cosmic manifestation and its creation, maintenance and annihilation are all but your opulences. Since Lord Brahma and other creators are nothing but small portions of a portion of you, their partial power to create does not make them God, Ishvara. Their consciousness of themselves as separate lords is therefore merely false prestige. It is not valid. Purport. A devotee who has fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord knows very well that the creative energy of the living entities from Lord Brahma down to the small ant exists because the living entities are part and parcel of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 15.7, the Lord says, Mama ivam sho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. The living entities are nothing but very small portions of the Supreme Spirit, like sparks of a fire. Because they are part of the Supreme, they have a creative quality in a very minute quantity. The so-called scientists of the modern materialistic world are proud because they have created modern facilities like great airplanes, but the credit for creating the airplanes should go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not to the scientists who have invented or created the so-called wonderful products. The first consideration is the intelligence of the scientist. One must be elevated by the dictation of the Supreme Lord, who says in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. From me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Because the Supreme Lord, as Super Soul, sits within the core of every living entity's heart, the dictation by which one advances in scientific knowledge or creative faculties comes from him. Furthermore, the ingredients to manufacture wonderful machines like airplanes are also supplied by the Lord, not by the scientists. Because the airplane was created, its ingredient already existed, having been caused by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when the manifested creation of the airplane is ruined, the remaining debris is a problem for the so-called creators. Another example is that the West is creating many automobiles. The ingredients for these cars are supplied, of course, by the Supreme Personality, by the Supreme Lord, and the intelligence for the so-called creation is also supplied by the Lord. Ultimately, when the cars are demolished, the so-called creators are faced with the problem of what to do with their ingredients. The actual creator, the original creator, is the personality of Godhead. Only in the interim does someone create something with intelligence supplied by the Lord, and the later creation again becomes a problem. Therefore, the so-called creator is not to be credited with the act of creation. The only credit goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is rightly stated herein that the credit for all the opulences of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation belongs to the Supreme Lord, not to the living entities. Hare Krishna. So again, like yesterday, in today's BG discussion, we were discussing, like Nitya Mataji mentioned about uninterrupted and unmotivated devotional service. And then we were discussing upon how to reach that point, and I was listening to the discussion. And so this is what like Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, Gaur Kumar Prabhu, Nitya Mataji, and Kameshwar Prabhu, they all mentioned like how do we reach there. So it was seeing Krishna in everything, even though it requires like very much practice and everything, but seeing Krishna in everything we are doing. This also came up like when we do something great and we think like we have done it, and we fail to see Krishna in that particular moment, like how Krishna can be involved sometimes, or like So basically, all we need to do is practice. And regarding this, that from Lord Brahma down to the small ant, as mentioned in the first line, this again reminds me of Kevala Ashtakam. And Gautama Prabhu mentioned this in like one of the BG discussion. So Brahma Stamba Pariyantam Sarva Mayam Jagat Satyam Satyam Puna Satyam Hare Nam Eva Kevalam. So the entire universe from exalted Brahma down to the lowly clump of grass is a product of the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. The only thing that is reality, again I say reality, the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Reminded me of that particular verse. So this is all I have to add, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nupur, for connecting Keval Ashtakam also to this verse. And anyone else wants to share anything? So the Brahma Samhita, so Nitya is expert in Brahma Samhita. Do you want to share anything about this?
I am not at all an expert. Many
Because this dear Lord, this cosmic manifestation and its creation, maintenance, and annihilations are all but your opulences. So what is the verse from the Brahma Samhita?
Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha.
yes,
Maybe.
that talks about that also talks about Maya, like the Vibharti.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And also this one Andandarastha Paramanu Chayadadastha. In every atom Krishna is there. I mean, Krishna resides. Krishna resides in the you know is impetus for creation. I mean, for the creation of this whole Jagadanda. He enters into that universe, and also he enters into each and every atom. So that talks about the creation, and then maintenance. Of course, it's a Vishnu tattva. So I guess the whole you can say for maintenance, I'm not sure, but for annihilation, he talks about Lord Shiva. How Shiram yata dati vikara vishesha yoga sanjayate nahi tata pratagasti heto yah shambhutam api tata samupaiti karyat govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. How the yogurt or the curd is derived from the milk, but even though they are separate kind of entities, or separate in terms of existence, then yogurt is different from curd, even in terms of taste, and also the nature of the what it is made of. But it is derived from the milk, and similarly, so Shiva, Lord Shiva, is also derived from Krishna, and they are even though they are different, like milk and curd, they are of the same source. They are the same. The source is running through Shiva, and also through all the living entities. So that is also important. But here it says Lord Shiva is at the same time different, but one and different at the same time. It's like a paradoxical understanding. Their consciousness of themselves are separate lords. Yeah. That's all I can think of. If I think of something, I'll express. Thank you.
Krishna Prabhu, would you like to say something?
Yes, Prabhu. Now, I loved Nupur Mataji's explanation, and Nitya Mataji's explanation. And there was one thing that struck me in Nupur Mataji's explanation, which is how do you see God in everything and everything around you? And now I'm connecting this to a line that Chaitanya Charan Prabhu has said in one of his classes, which is, do you feel first and then act, or do you act first and then feel? What I mean by that is, some people say, I don't feel like there is God, and so they're thinking about it. Other people just act it out, and later it develops. Their faith for the Lord develops. So this is just a thought, and I would love any of your reactions to it. Of course, we know academically that the Lord is everything, the Lord is creation and all that. How do we take that? Do we take that to be true, and then gradually we will feel it, or do true devotees actually start feeling it first?
So, yeah, very, very good question, Prabhu. I just share some things, and if anybody else wants to share anything, you can. But otherwise, I'll share my thoughts. Does anybody want to say? So basically, the question is, so do we start to act first before we feel Krishna's presence, or do we feel Krishna's presence first and then act? How many of you think the first one is true?
So when I have a question, when acting, you mean like faking?
Service. You serve first and then you start
Sorry.
experiencing Krishna.
I thought it's fake it till you make it kind of a thing. I thought
Action.
Okay, got it.
Am I right, Krishna Prabhu? Did you mean fake it?
Yes, no, I meant act it. Act it through actions.
Yeah. So how many of you think that actions first before you experience Krishna's love, or is it the other way around? You experience Krishna's love and then you start acting. Like in the case of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the dream that he got from Lord Nityananda, so that came first, and then he immediately acted. Like next day morning, he woke up and he immediately left to Vrindavan. So, but in some cases, they've done a lot of service and then they have felt Krishna's presence. So which one is first? And how do we see Krishna everywhere? That is another question that you asked. I'll share some experiences of pure devotees that we know, like some sannyasis within our movement. But before that, I want to hear others on this topic.
Prabhu, I feel Hare Krishna Prabhu. So I feel like it depends on the person. I think for like a lot of them, what like I think there are different ways in which people come to Krishna consciousness. So I feel like some of them, like, they don't act on it. For example, we have heard a lot of pastimes about like how prasadam changes. So in cases like that, they're not conscious about it, or at least to a certain degree they're not conscious about it, but then the prasadam purifies their mind, and then it happens. And for others, I think there is like some sort, if anybody is like acting on devotional service, in some sense there must be some degree of faith or willingness to try it out. So for people of that caliber, I think the faith comes first, and then they're able to latch onto that and progress.
Yeah, brilliant, Lekha Mataji. Thank you. So it's both ways you're saying. For some people, it could be they experience Krishna's love first and then they act, and for others, it could be they act first and then experience Krishna's love. Correct?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, and like for example, you gave the example of having prasad. So having prasad purifies them, and then they start experiencing Krishna more and more.
Yeah.
Anyone else wants to share anything on this?
Yeah, I liked what Lekha mentioned about how it's both ways. It's not like one way or the other. I think, and also
She talked about faith. Yeah, and that's another beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That faith has to be there. Otherwise, we won't be able to act. Sorry, go
Mm.
ahead.
True. Yes. And I had a train of thought. I just escaped my mind. So the thing is, it's like kind of a catch-22. It's what comes first, but then that is why Krishna has made it so that if you want to you can come to me however you want, right? Like if you have that faith that has been built over lifetimes of all the other things that we've been doing, then naturally we get the one gets attachment without even acting and without even action, and then they just kind of go hand in hand with by the natural the devotional service comes natural for some of them because of their lifetimes of working on it. So it is also how where in that spiritual progress they are at. It's what the soul has kind of transgressed from one lifetime to another lifetime, and how much of the experience or how much of the penance or tapasya that the soul has done to achieve that particular stage that we see in some people. It's very natural. It's very, they are already in that platform where they feel Krishna's presence, they feel Krishna's love, they feel emotionally connected to Krishna and see Krishna and everything instantly. Whereas for others, it's always where the dot is on that line, where we are in the beginning stage, or we are in the middle, or we're in the advanced stage. It's I think it's also where they are at. But regardless, I think that the more so mind can be habituated to do what we want to do. This is a very proven scientific evidence there, that the neurons fire the way whenever we have as external stimuli and we react to something, then the neurons get created, and then the more that external stimuli, the same external stimuli is happening many different times, the same kind of neurons typically get fired, and then that becomes a kind of a habit. After a certain number of triggering, that becomes the usual habit. We don't even think about it, we just do it. So similarly, if we train our mind to always do something that can be done to whenever we see the sunset or the sunrise in the morning, which happens every day, or except for the cloudy days, of course. But whenever we see sun, we can always habituate our mind to think about Krishna, and that'll happen pretty much like a clockwork. They're pretty much like automatically after some point. So it can be habituated. We can force our mind to think about Krishna in certain times of the day where we know that that's going to happen for sure. Like, for example, before eating, we can say our prayers. We can say our Mahaprasada prayers, and then followed by thank you very much, Krishna, for this prasadam. It's because we eat every day. We eat almost like 99% of the day we eat our food. So it can be habituated, and this is action, right? This is action, and then it will eventually become a habit. Once it becomes a habit, the mind just keeps luring us to that. So mind can become our friend in that sense. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is fake it till you make it. Initially, we understand in theory that if we keep doing this, we will experience Krishna eventually. But you have to keep doing it. You have to keep acting. You have to keep acting. And then eventually you will start experiencing Krishna's love. Is that correct? Summary of what you said?
Whether we experience love or not, it may not happen in this lifetime, but at least, you know, we can be rest assured that, okay, today, at the end of the day, if we have to see as get a statistic of how many times I remembered Krishna, then definitely there will be some kind of count that we can keep. And it will not be like a day went by and I didn't even think about Krishna. You know, it's easy to be that way. And it's about our effort, whether whether we have a feeling for Krishna or not. I think it's all mercy from Krishna himself that, I don't think we can demand or we can expect or have a goal or anything like that. If we put in our effort, definitely there will be some kind of reciprocation from Krishna, and we will definitely start feeling it.
Does that help, Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. I think that
But
was.
I like to hear what you are going to say too.
Yeah. So first of all, Krishna Prabhu started his question by asking, how do we see Krishna everywhere? So for that, I'll just quickly share one slide here, which can you all see the slide?
Yes.
Okay. So when you see a fruit, do you want to focus on the fruit or you want to focus on the reflection? It's a question for all of you. When you see a fruit, here is a little Prithu having a fruit, for those of you who have not seen. So Prithu is having a fruit. I don't know if Jagannath Gopal Prabhu is still here, but yeah, this is Prithu having a fruit. So when you see a fruit, like if you keep a fruit in front of Prithu, he will run towards the fruit, but he will not care about the reflection, correct? Will you? So I guess you all agree with me that when you see a fruit, you will not care about the reflection. Now let's take the other side. When you see a reflection of a fruit, what does that remind you of? It reminds you of the actual fruit, correct? Now in this case of strawberry that you see, if you look at the reflection of the strawberry, it should immediately remind you of the actual strawberry. So what is being said here, the tip here is that anything in this world that we see is a reflection, is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So anything and everything that we see here should remind us of Krishna. And I've seen this repeatedly in the case of pure devotees in our movement, where suddenly they'll be seeing something that we are also seeing, and that will remind them of Krishna. So in a class that was given by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami recently, maybe a few years ago, he was seeing one particular devotee who was wearing a Gap t-shirt, Gap t-shirt. And then, so he called that devotee, and then the devotee was a little embarrassed because he was not wearing dhoti at that time. But then he said that your t-shirt during the entire class reminded me of Krishna. So this devotee was wondering how can this Gap t-shirt remind you of Krishna? Like you cannot even think of Gap t-shirt reminding a sannyasi about Krishna, right? But then immediately he said, Gap reminded me of Govindam Adi Purusham. You see? So like that, they're always in this consciousness of any reflection reminding them of the actual fruit. They're always in that consciousness. So as Radhanath Maharaj recently mentioned, it's not that they're always thanking Krishna every minute, but they're in that consciousness of Krishna, Krishna conscious, so that everything in this world will remind them of Krishna. So there are so many small examples like this. Once Srila Prabhupada, he was going on a morning walk in Chicago during the winter time, and it was extremely cold, and there was a cool breeze that came. And then at that time, Srila Prabhupada said, the breeze is a cold embrace of Krishna. Like nobody could even think of Krishna at that time, you know. But even through the breeze, Srila Prabhupada was experiencing Krishna. And with Radhanath Maharaj, so whenever he sees the hand, once when we were walking, it's not that he consciously thought, it just naturally came to him. The hand sign, which is shown for a stop sign. So when he saw the hand sign, he immediately said, this reminds me of Srimati Radharani's hand. So here we are seeing devotees who are seeing the reflection of this world, and they're constantly reminded of Krishna. Now, Krishnan Prabhu, I have a question for you. When was the last time that you saw something of this world and that reminded you of Krishna? And this is how, as Nitya was mentioning, we should train our mind to remember Krishna all the time by seeing things around us. So Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu is saying, reminds me of Gaurang Prabhu calling, the earplugs as Jai and Vijay. Yeah. So Gaurang Prabhu was actually putting earplugs just before the Sadhu Sangha retreat. He was sitting next to us. And then he pulled out his earplugs and he said, this is Jai and Vijay. And then he put it in his ears. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Krishnan Prabhu, go ahead.
I think it happens very rarely to me, but I think if it does happen, it's a real blessing. But it doesn't happen that often, Prabhu.
So, for example, when you're drinking water from next time, Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya, Krishna says, where he's saying that I am the taste in water. This is one easy way to remember Krishna all the time. So next time when you're drinking water, I'm not saying that you have to do this, but you can start remembering that this taste is coming because of Krishna. The taste, Krishna says that he's the taste of water. So like that, or whenever you're walking outside, when you see the sky, you can think that this is Krishna's color, like that. If you start training your mind, we have to make an effort from our side. Otherwise, it's not going to happen because this Maya is very, very powerful. She's trying her best to take us away from Krishna. So if we have to really connect to Krishna above the three modes, then we have to train our mind repeatedly and we have to put our efforts. We have to put our efforts to remember Krishna. So like that, we should have a few things that will help us remember Krishna. So that is one thing, one aspect. And the other aspect is we must have things that really nourish us. For some of us, it could be kirtans. Some of us, it could be reading. Some of us, it could be chanting. Or for some of us, it could be anything like listening to a class, going for Mangalarti, whatever it may be, that really nourishes you. And we must practice this on a day-to-day basis with a lot of intensity, because it's something that we like also and something that nourishes also. So if you have to really connect with Krishna, we must dedicate a certain amount of time daily where we really make an effort to connect to Krishna. So when we do this consistently, then we will start experiencing Krishna everywhere and at all times, moment by moment by moment. Moment by moment by moment is a test, whether we are surrendering to Krishna or to Maya. Actually, every moment is a choice that's given to us. And as we increase the moments where we remember Krishna more and more, then we will come to that platform of being completely Krishna conscious. I don't know if I'm going way off in a tangent or this is helping Krishna Prabhu.
It's very, very helpful. It's very helpful. I think it made it, at least it gives us a way forward, so it's very practical, Prabhu. Thank you for this. This is good.
Thank you. So we'll continue. Let me share my screen. So, Krishnan Prabhu, would you like to read the next verse?
Yes, I can read it.
You don't have to read the Sanskrit if you don't want to.
Yeah, I won't read
Sorry,
it.
just because today is Independence Day. So if you see fireworks, what should it be reminded of? It's a question for God Kumar.
You tell me, please.
I don't know. I'm just asking because.
Oh, you're seeing the fireworks now.
Yes. And I just wanted, from my window, it's visible.
So immediately what comes to my mind is like the fireworks remind me of somebody.
Lord Rama returning to Ayodhya. Vallabh Chaitanya.
Yeah, Vallabh Chaitanya. That's exactly what I was thinking also. I was thinking of the final battle where Ravan gets defeated, So, yeah. And then, I don't know. Different people can say different things, but anyone else? Okay, this is a good question for everyone. What do the fireworks remind you of?
Diwali for me.
Diwali for you. Okay. Anyone else? Krishnan Prabhu, anything? Nupur, what does fireworks remind you of?
I too thought what Bhaiya wrote, Lord Rama returning back to Ayodhya. It was my first thought as well.
Oh, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu is sharing. Hold on. We have to have the pin.
Jay.
Spotlight for everybody. There's the fireworks.
Wow.
Remember Lord Ram.
Wow.
Oh,
Amazing. It's like a 360-degree view of yeah. Nice.
oh yeah.
It's actually the Rockefeller estate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and it's their home preserved as it
Okay.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a celebration, victory celebration.
Yeah,
Yes, I can't think of anything else.
and also these creations are, they're human creations. They're fireworks, but the material that has gone into it is the Lord's material, like the previous verse said.
Yes, exactly. The previous purport. Yeah. Thank you.
Previous purport, yeah.
Prabhu, I just wanted to share something. Like when we were as Nitya Kishori Mataji was asking about in getting reminded of Krishna of Krishna every day. I think it was already there in our system, like at least up to a certain point, maybe like our grandparents. I think I've seen even them follow. Like for example, the moment they wake up, they'll actually touch the floor, paying respects to Mother Earth, and then they will all do like Surya Namaskar in the morning, looking at the sun. So they get reminded of, and there is like a mantra for Suryaya Namaha, Mitraya Namaha, like that basically reminds them of Surya of Surya Narayana, and even when they take bath, they actually like say prayers for prayers to all the holy rivers, and praying for cleaning their consciousness along with cleaning their body. And even when they're eating, they'll do like achaman, basically cleaning the whole place around them and offering it to insects by putting rangoli outside their home. So I think it was all like already imbibed. Like even festivals like Ayudha Puja, where we worship all the tools that we use for working, like knives. So I think it was already existing and extremely well integrated into like our system in daily lives, but I think with urbanization and globalization, like slowly, at least in my household, up to my grandparents followed it like to the T. But with my parents also followed it, but it was a little bit of degradation. With me and my brother, we hardly did anything. So I think maybe if we just start getting those practices back, I think it might and start integrating it automatically. I think it might be one way of like doing it. I think I was just reminded about it.
Even when somebody sneezed, you said Krishna or
yeah,
that, and whereas now we say excuse me or something like that.
yeah, and we would all name the kids as like Krishna, Rama, like I think it was extremely well integrated in our system.
That's
Yeah, very well said. And yeah, there were so many things that our grandparents were following, but we
Yeah.
would question most of the things. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
But many times we would not get the right answers.
Yeah.
And even if we got the right answers, we would take it, hey, come on, this is not practical these days, and things like
Yeah.
that. We would brush it off. But
Yeah.
actually, as Lekha Mataji just mentioned, these are all very powerful tools to make us remember the Lord, or glorify the Lord, or glorify the Lord's pastimes.
Yeah.
But it's completely, I would say that even in India now, it's completely lost. And unfortunately, people are completely deviating from our rich culture that we've had. Krishnan Prabhu, am I right in saying this? I know you are very much connected with.
Completely agree. My daughter's cousins, some of them don't even speak their mother tongue. They only speak in English. And I can understand it if you grow up in the US, but if you grow up in India, I find it very hard to understand. So it is, all this, all this modernization is being taken the wrong way, and the wrong things are getting emphasized. I shouldn't say the wrong things are getting emphasized. The right things are getting forgotten. The right things are getting forgotten, I think.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu. So this is text 36.
Yeah, let's start reading it. You're in the beginning, middle, and end of everything. From the most minute article of cosmic manifestation, the atom, to the gigantic universes and the total material energy. And total material energy. Nonetheless, you're eternal, having no beginning, end, or middle. You're perceived to exist in these three phases, and thus you are permanent. When the cosmic manifestation does not exist, you exist as the original potency. Purport. The Brahma Samhita says, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Nava Yauvanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktau Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person, absolute, infallible, without beginning, although expanded into unlimited forms, still the same original, the oldest, and the person always appearing as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, all-knowing forms of the Lord cannot be understood even by the best Vedic scholars, because they are always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. Sorry, let me read that again. Even by the best Vedic scholars, but they are always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no cause, for he is the cause of everything. The Lord is beyond the workings of cause and effect. He is eternally existing. In another verse, the Brahma Samhita says, Andantara sta paramanu chayantara stham. The Lord exists with the gigantic universe and within the atom. The descent of the Lord into the atom and the universe is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen. But when they see a vast ocean, they are puzzled about where such a quantity of hydrogen and oxygen could have come from. They think that everything evolved from chemicals, but where did the chemicals come from? That they do not know. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes, he can produce immense quantities of chemicals to create a situation for chemical evolution. We actually see that chemicals are produced from living entities. For example, a lemon tree produces many tons of citric acid. The citric acid is not the cause of the tree. Rather, the tree is the cause of the acid. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of everything. He is the cause of the tree that produces the citric acid. Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutanam. The devotees can see that the original potencies causing the cosmic manifestation are not in chemicals, but in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he is the cause of the chemicals. Everything is caused or manifested by the energy of the Supreme Lord, and when everything is annihilated or dissolved, the original potency enters the body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, this verse, Adav Ante Picha Satvanam Yet Dhruvam Tad Ivantarale Pi. The word Dhruvam means permanent. The permanent reality is Krishna, not this cosmic manifestation. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Adir Hi Devanam and Mattas Sarvam Pravartate. Krishna is the original cause of everything. Arjuna recognized Lord Sri Krishna as the original person. Purusham Saswatam Divyam Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. And the Brahma Samhita describes him as the original person, Govindam Adi Purusham. He is the cause of all causes, whether at the beginning, at the end, or in the middle. It's a beautiful purport, and this is essentially what what he's saying is that the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes. Srila Prabhupada is calling attention to the scientists' claims that all this was created through chemicals or the Big Bang or whatever. But you can ask, what was it before that? And I think this is the type of verse or purport that if you read, now I'm going to share my thoughts a little bit here, that if you read in front of your friends, you'll quickly know which of your friends are believers and which of them are non-believers. Of course, some believers like to appear as non-believers. And I don't want to judge them for that too, because, they have to survive in the society that they live in. And I'll pause there. And then the other thing I quickly wanted to mention was this in the translation where he says they are from the atom to the gigantic universe. I'm reminded of the song Anuro Yaniyana Mahato Mahiyana, which is one of Purandaradasa's kritis, where this line comes, where the Lord is in the atom, and also he is in the gigantic universe. So yeah, that line in that kriti, reminds is what I'm reminded of when I read this purport.
Yeah, brilliant, Prabhu. Thank you so much. You covered the purport, the essence of the purport very well. Thank you. Anyone else wants to share anything on this verse? Okay, we can move on to the next verse. Lekha Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. Shruti adibhir esha kilavritah saptabhi dashagунोत्तरैर andakoshaha yatra patati anukalpaha sahanda kotibhisthat anantah. Translation: every universe is covered by 7 layers: earth, water, fire, air, sky, the total energy, and false ego, each 10 times greater than the previous one. There are innumerable universes besides this one, and although they are unlimitedly large, they move out like atoms in you. Therefore, you're called unlimited or Ananta. Purport. Brahma Samhita 5.48 says, Yasyaika nishvasita kalam atavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadanandanataha Vishnur mahansa iha yasya kala vishesho govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The origin of the material creation is Mahavishnu, who lies in the causal ocean. While he sleeps in that ocean, millions of universes are generated as he exhales, and they are all annihilated when he inhales. This Mahavishnu is a plenary portion of Vishnu, Govinda. Yasya Kala Visesha. The word Kala refers to a plenary portion of a plenary portion. From Krishna or Govinda comes Balarama. From Balarama comes Shankarshana. From Sankarshana, Narayana. From Narayana, the second Sankarshana. And from the second Sankarshana, Mahavishnu. And from Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And from Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. Kshirodakashayi Vishnu controls every universe. This gives an idea of the meaning of Ananta, unlimited. What is to be said of the unlimited potency and existence of the Lord? This verse describes the coverings of the universe Saptaibhir Dasha Gunotarai Andakoshaha. The first covering is earth, the second is water, the third is fire, the fourth is air, the fifth is sky, the sixth is the total material energy, and the seventh is the false ego. Beginning with the covering of earth, each covering is 10 times greater than the previous one. Thus, we can only imagine how great each universe is, and there are many millions of universes. As confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 10.42, Atava bahunaitena kim nyatena tavarjunam visthabhyaham idam kritsnam ekam shena stito jagat. But what we need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge, while with a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. The entire material world manifests only 1/4 of the Supreme Lord's energy. Therefore, he's called Ananta. Yeah, this is a very magnificent purport where like we get a very good glimpse of how unlimited the universe is. Like, I think we see this kind of description like throughout all of our Vedic scriptures and in Bhagavatam. Like, even when last time when we read Gajendra's pastimes, there was this description about like Gajendra, living in this mountain made of like ivory, gold, and silver, and all of this is Krishna's creation. Like, it's a very it's very hard to like imagine the richness of like what Krishna possesses, but this is a really good description. And I just kind of wanted to just connect this, because last time when I was telling about the pastimes, I forgot to mention the name of the deity in Kanchipuram, and his name is Yatoktakari Perumal, or Yatokta means as requested, and Kari is one who does. So he's called the one who does as requested. That's his name. And in Tamil, he's called as Sonna Vannam Seida Perumal, which literally translates to Yatokta Kari. So I just want to connect that, because like this Krishna who is Ananta, like he has all of these things. Like, he is like, it's really hard to like imagine how powerful, vast, expansive he is. Like, he comprising of all these 6 qualities that makes him a Bhagavan, does as requested. He even wants to be called as one. Like, I am the one who did what was requested. So someone of that stature to act in to take someone's request and act accordingly, it's even this reciprocation that Krishna has, this position that Krishna takes, is extremely hard to like imagine and digest. Yeah, I kind of want to just quickly connect that.
Yes, on one hand, it is very hard to digest, but on the other hand, it is also amazing to see our dear Lord Krishna, in whom everything resides. Like when Mother Yashoda asked Krishna to open his mouth, she was amazed to see all the universe, the entire universe within his little mouth. So yeah, that's beautiful to see the aspects. Yeah, thank you. Anything else you would like to share, Rekha Mataji?
That's it, Prabhu. I just wanted to, that's it.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything that struck in this purport? Okay, next, Nupur. We just have 2 more verses. We have 3 more verses, 38, 39, and 40.
Yes, sure. Text 38. Vishaya Trisho Nara Pashvo Yam Paste Vibhuti Matarantam Tesham Ashisha Isha Tad Anu Vinashyanti Yatha Rajku. Translation. O Lord, O Supreme Unintelligent persons who thirst for sense enjoyment and who worship various demigods are no better than animals in the human form of men. Because of their animalistic propensities, they fail to worship your lordship, and instead they worship the insignificant demigods who are but small sparks of your glory. With the destruction of the entire universe, including the demigods, the benedictions received from the demigods also vanish, just like the nobility when a king is no longer in power. Purport: Bhagavad Gita 7.20 says, Kamaistair Rita Jnana Prapadyante Anya Devata. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto the demigods. Similarly, this verse condemns worship of the demigods. We may show our respect to the demigods, but the demigods are not worshipable. The intelligence of those who worship the demigods is lost, Rita Jnana, because these worshippers do not know that when the entire material cosmic manifestation is annihilated, the demigods, who are the departmental heads of that manifestation, will be vanquished. When the demigods are vanquished, the benedictions given by the demigods to unintelligent men will also be vanquished. Therefore, a devotee should not hanker to obtain material opulence by worshipping the demigods, but should engage in the service of the Lord, who will satisfy all his desires. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. Whether full of all material desires, free from material desires, or desiring liberation, a person who has broader intelligence must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. This is the duty of a perfect human being, one who has the shape of a human being but whose actions are nothing but those of an animal is called Narpashu or Dvipada Pashu, a two-legged animal. A human being who is not interested in Krishna consciousness is condemned herewith as a Narpashu. Hare Krishna. It's a very strong purport, like Srila Prabhupada is very clearly condemning the demigod worship, and even in the translation. So, in the purport of Bhagavad Gita 7.20, Srila Prabhupada gives the same verse, this Bhagavatam 2.3.10 in the purport. And there as well, he mentions like whether one is a pure, in Bhagavatam it is recommended, whether one is a pure devotee and is free from all material desires, or is full of material desires, or desires liberation from material contamination, he should in all cases surrender to Vasudev and worship him. And this demigod worship, it's a very strong thing, like very common thing that takes place in India. And I have this question, like we know, I have been reading in various verses, and I have been part of various discussions where we discuss how this should not take place at first place. Like we should respect all the demigods, but again, whatever we desire, and the biggest example was given by Indradev himself. So, as Maharaj says that Indradev, he knew everything. He knew what he was doing. He's one of the most intelligent demigods, but still he did all of this. He offended the Lord, and he got offended himself. He in his own ego, but he did it all for us. But still, we have in my case, I have family members who do the demigod worship. So I have this question, like how to what to do about it and how to go about it. So yeah, this is all I have to add, Prabhuji.
So is the question regarding your understanding or your family members' understanding?
So as far as I want to know if I understand it rightly. Like it's clearly mentioned that that demigod worship, it should not take place, because all we need, everything, every single thing from minute to major, it can be accomplished by our one supreme personality of Godhead. And then why are we worshipping his parts and parcels, like going to them for different desires, like this demigod is going to give me a home, this is going to give me a child, this is going to give me peace and happiness. So I this is my understanding, but I know my family, we have discussion, and I see them they are not ready to accept it, and they are very happy and very comfortable in worshipping the demigods and asking different desires to different demigods. So how do I go about it? How do I try to convince them? And I understand that I cannot change their thought process. I want to know, Prabhuji, what can I do for them in this context?
Yeah, good question, Nupur. Anybody Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu is saying, just to clarify, that family member is not me. Okay.
Can I chime in, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is, it always, maybe I've said this before too. This is one of my favorite verses in Bhagavad Gita, is that there are four types of devotees. Lord Krishna says, Arthi, Artharthi, Jigyasu, and Jnani. Arthi is somebody who wants something. Artharthi is somebody who
Seeker of wealth.
seeker. Yeah, sorry. Artharthi is seeker of wealth. Arthi is
Depressed. Distressed.
Distressed, and he wants to get free from distress.
Yes.
Jigyasu is somebody who is, he's Jigyasu. He wants to know more about the Lord. And Jnani is somebody who already knows the Lord. And Lord Krishna says that he likes all of them. All of them are dear to him. And so if people are worshipping Lord Krishna and they are, and they desire something, something that is also okay, because we all are, none of us are perfect, and we will all go through these phases before we get somewhere. And now, as far as demigod worship is concerned, this is, if the demigods are worshipped purely for material reasons and only for material benedictions, then I guess then that's a problem, and then they are Srila Prabhupada calls them unintelligent men, and that's a problem. Now it's a question that I also have, which is what if somebody worships demigods and just doesn't know that the demigod is a demigod and not the Supreme Lord? And in that case, how does God treat them or deal with them?
So anybody else wants to answer that? It's a very good question. So if somebody worships a demigod without the understanding that the demigod is a demigod, and they worship the demigod as a supreme god, for example, they worship Lord Ganesh in Mumbai as if he's the supreme Lord. So in such cases, what happens? Is that the question, Prabhu? Am I understanding correctly?
That's right. That's the question. So they're, even if they're looking for some benefits or some material opulence or something, I think that I understand. That all of us do that, and even in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, but some of them may do it with the honest intention, that thinking that the demigod is the Supreme Lord. Then how does the Lord deal with them? Or that's the question. I think you summarized it well.
Yeah. So basically we are talking from the perspective of the worshipper of the demigod, but there is also one aspect that we forget, is the role of the demigod in this as well. So if we worship the demigod with just the mood of getting something from the demigod, like for example, I'm worshiping the demigod so that I get a big house, let's say. So the demigod will immediately sanction that as well. And you have come to me for this, I'm going to give you this. But if somebody worships a demigod, thinking that this demigod is the supreme, and they have bhakti towards the demigod, they have devotion towards the demigod, then the demigod plays an important part, and he says that, okay, so you are loving me, but I love someone more superior to me. And I am going to direct your love towards that person, and I will make sure that your love for me will get directed towards that supreme person. Just like how a pure devotee, if somebody comes and glorifies them for their service, they'll direct it to the Supreme Lord, that this is ultimately the Supreme Lord's mercy on me, that I am even here. So that aspect is very important. We usually tend to forget that. And because of that, if a person genuinely worships a demigod with bhakti, with devotion, not with the mode of getting something in reciprocation. If you want something in reciprocation, the demigod will give you that, but bhakti aspect won't be there at all. But if you worship the demigod with a mode of devotion, then eventually that person's bhakti will get directed towards the Supreme. It has happened in many cases that I know. So I know that it will happen eventually, whether it happens in this lifetime or a future lifetime. But that demigod will feel that devotion and he will direct it towards the Supreme Lord. And then the Supreme Lord will reciprocate with that person. And eventually we'll come to the platform of worshipping the Supreme Lord. Either we'll take birth in a Brahmin family, or we'll take get the association of a pure devotee in our next life, or something like that will happen, where that bhakti will be directed towards the right source very soon. Does that answer, Krishnan Prabhu?
Yes, it does. And I think we also want to address Nupur Mataji's question, which was about how to or what is our role with our relatives.
Yeah.
Is that the sense of the question, Mataji?
Yeah, how do we deal with our family members who are worshipping demigods? So first and foremost is that we should not pound the philosophy of Krishna consciousness on them. Anyway, so Nitya wants to go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, after you.
So one of the mistakes that we do, especially as neophyte devotees, you're not doing this, Nupur, I'm just telling you what I did, is that we know a little bit of philosophy, and then we start, and they've been worshipping the demigod for, let's say, 20, 30 years now. So they have developed a lot of faith and a lot of, let's say, devotion towards the demigod. And we are just budding devotees who have just like 1% of devotion towards Krishna, and they have 30% of devotion towards the demigod, let's say. And then we start downloading our whole philosophy on them, which is the worst thing that we can ever do, because first of all, we'll not be able to convince them either through our understanding or scripturally or any other means. We will not be able to convince them. So what we should do is that just respect them for what they're doing. Respect them for what they're doing and give them their space. And then you do what you're doing. And then increase your bhakti towards the Supreme Lord. But if eventually, if they ask you questions, then you can actually tell them. See, one thing is, in this life of Krishna consciousness, we are leading a life of devotion. So every moment or every day, it is not just that we get up in the morning or we do something for 10 minutes and then the rest of the day we just completely are doing all kinds of nonsense, right? That is not how we lead a life of devotion. And then eventually they'll see that, hey, these people are leading a life of devotion throughout their day. I mean, throughout their days, months, years, like that. You know, they're leading a life of devotion. There's something that they are getting. So what are they getting? So that comes to the curiosity point that we discussed. So distressed seeker of wealth, and they become curious. And then when they come to you, that is when you can share your realizations. But until that point, I think you should just respect what they're doing and expect respect for what you are doing as well. I'll stop here. So I'll let Nitya continue.
Yeah, the great point that, show by example, right? Lead by example rather than forcing. So of late, I have come to kind of appreciate one prayer that is in line with our sampradaya. At the same time, it is also kind of bridges the demigod worship along with our Krishna consciousness. One such prayer is the Narasimha Kavach prayer. So it is most of you have know about this Sri Narasimha Kavach mantra. So it is actually asking pretty much just plain simply asking Narasimha to protect our material body and to give us benedictions so that we can have wealth, sons, or whatever we want to rule, the earthy planets or whatever it is. it is a Narsimha Kavacha mantra. And, I'll just like quotes a little bit here and there. It's that, first of all, this mantra removes all the impediments, right? And provides all protection. So just by the word of protection, I'm sure that we can capture pretty much anyone into this realm of Narsimha Kavach. Like pretty much everybody wants protection. They are fearful of things that may be happening. And Narsimha Kavach means that it is a layer of protection that is being offered. And wash your hands. And also further, if you see, I won't, it's a beautiful kind of a mantra. And further down, it says that one who recites this, whatever one desires in this world, he can attain without a doubt. One who recites this mantra. One can have wealth, many sons, a long life. He can be victorious, desire victory, become a conqueror, influence all, wards off the influence of all planets, like Ragu, Ketu kind of planets, earthly, heavenly, and everything in between. And also, it says that this Kavacha mantra is the king of all mantras. One attains by it what would be attained by anointing oneself with ashes and chanting all other mantras. It's like, one mantra that is considered as the king of all mantras. So this itself is very evident, so it is kind of like a bridging. Like if people are more of a demigod worshippers, then used to asking for more benedictions for health, wealth, whatever the case may be, they can be easily kind of gradually move them into the Narsimha Kavach, and then we can introduce them into the Narsimha pastime of how Narsimha protects, like Prahlad. And then what is from Prahlad's life story, we can kind of gradually pull them into Bhagavatam, kind of what Bhagavatam emphasizes on pure devotional service, how pure devotional service is higher than anything else that we can aspire for. This is what I've been meditating upon ever since I started reciting this mantra. Of course, for all honesty, I started with not knowing about the potency of this mantra, but then when I started reading the lyrics of the English translation of this, I started appreciating so much about how even as devotees, we sometimes we can think that we are all in the okay, I don't want to ask anything from Krishna, but then we are all in need of so many things all the time that is beyond our control. Let's say we want protection of our loved ones, right? For us, we don't want anything, but we definitely are afraid and fearful of the protection and for the well-being of our loved ones. So in that case, we become a little helpless, and then we want to pray. It's not something bad. It's not that we shouldn't be asking Krishna for anything. The prayers will put us in a humble position also. And also, it's okay to ask. And this is created. So one thing is that who wrote this mantra? Any guesses? Who wrote this mantra?
I'll take a guess. Is it Jayadev Goswami?
No.
No.
Anybody else? Any guesses? Very good guess though, because Jayadev Goswami is very famous for coming up with such powerful verses. Lekha, yes.
I thought it was Prahlad Maharaj, but then I remember.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, it is Prahlad Maharaj. So Prahlad Maharaj recited this Narsimha Kavacha mantra, actually. And it is mentioned in Brahmanda Purana. And so this is what, so yeah, it's from a pure devotee. uh, you know, pure devotee himself, like Prahlad Maharaj, praying for something so personal. That puts us kind of in no higher position than Prahlad Maharaj. It's okay to ask for things. Sorry, if this makes any,
It makes a lot of sense. The only thing is, Narsinghadev is actually Vishnu Tattva. So that aspect is completely bona fide. So Srila Prabhupada would not call a person praying to Narsinghadev for material protection or protecting some part of their body or this and that. So that is fine. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi. Tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusha param. We just read that verse. So in the case of worshipping Krishna or the Vishnu Tattvas, this is perfectly fine. Akama sarva kama, even if sarva kamova means you have a lot of material desires, it's perfectly okay to worship Krishna or Vishnu Tattvas. The question that Nupur raised is the worshipping of demigods with the same intention.
So that's what, instead of preaching them to say, okay, don't pray to demigod, pray to Krishna. You say, okay, what are you praying for demigod? Okay, I'm praying for protection. I'm praying for this. Okay, let me give you the king of the mantras. Introduce them in that way, like bridging the gap.
But they'll say, no, but I have such a deep connection with Lord Ganesh.
So why don't you try? I mean, the thing is, yes, majority of them are, I've seen, and I've also grown up in one, is that they're not like so staunch that, okay, if I'm a Lord Shiva's, Bhakta, I will not pray to somebody else. They have in our altar, we have all gods and goddesses. We want to cover all bases, right? But it's just something that you can also ask Narsinghadev for protection, and everybody mostly knows Narsinghadev. Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu asked, but who are we to give them some mantra? No, it is of course we need to have that level of, we are talking about our family members. Of course, if it is my own brother, I would definitely have that relationship to tell. I cannot tell your family member for somebody else's family member, for example, because I don't have that relationship. But if you have that relationship, if you have that that trusting or something that they look up in you, or something that has come up in the recent conversations, as a matter of fact, you can just mention that, hey, this is also existing, and this is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, and this is considered as king of all mantras. I mean, it's there right under our repository of resources that we can use for prayers and protection. That's all. It's not like, of course, it has to be time, place, circumstances. It's not like, okay, on one fine morning, I'm just going to tell them about the Narsingha Kavach. It's also how to tell them, and what kind of relationship I have to tell them. It's all important.
Wonderful. Does that answer your question, Nupur?
Yes, Guruji, it does, and thank you so much for all your points, and Mataji mentioning about Narsingham Kavach. And yeah, what Bhaiya wrote is the case with us. Like, this is what we have to think first. Like, since our family members, they are so strongly attached to the mantra, I think the problem starts with the astrologers. They like approach to them and they give some mantra and they ask them to like chant it for like their entire lives and thousands and lakhs of time. So yeah, and they are so attached to that, it becomes such a strong habit. And I'm amazed to see like my mother and my maternal aunts following the same thing since years, and even my maternal uncles as well. So they have been given a mantra by this astrologer for whatever reasons, like this is the thing that is supposed to happen in this stage of your life. To avoid that, you have to chant this mantra for this much years, or maybe for entire lifetime. So yes, Ruji, I think like, I don't know, I think it starts with prayers, like praying to Krishna to help us to show them, like to try to even show them a way, or not just us, like to like at least he shows them a way somehow, anyhow. Yes, Ruby.
Yeah, I liked what you said about prayers, like praying to Krishna for that individual soul. I think that's also a brilliant advice that or suggestion that you just made. So because Krishna is in their heart as Paramatma, so if you really pray to Krishna that show this soul the right direction, then so that is one way of doing it. And as Nitya said, if you're in that relationship, then of course you can give them mantra. And if they're willing to take it, then they will take it. Otherwise, they will say no. Yeah, those are some tips. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Jai
for,
Mataji.
yeah, thank you for giving me some context about that, Nupur. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's it's not like we are going to ask them to replace it. It's just adding. That's all. Right?
Yes, Mataji.
They are doing some mantra for years and years. It's not like one fine day we can ask them to stop it. It's not like that. Because if something happens, right, coincidentally, they stop it and then something, God forbid, bad happens, then they'll completely move away from Krishna consciousness. So we don't want that. It's just that, okay, if you're doing already so much, just adding one more. That's it. And say, we, of course, if you have that kind of relationship, you can mention that, or just yeah, like have some other senior person mention that, like like anybody that they look up to in terms of Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
Can I share something that Nitai Sevini Mataji says?
Yes, Prabhu,
Of
please.
course, it's purely academic. I've never been able to implement it. But she says that, you have your functional identity. Be even better at it. Let's say you're a brother, be an even better brother. If you're a sister, daughter, be an even better daughter. And then that way they'll say, what is this? What is it that Nupur Mataji is doing that is making her so good? And then they will get attracted to it. I've heard her make this suggestion few times.
Yeah, brilliant point. Yeah, become a better son, become a better daughter, become a better sister, better brother, and that will make them question. And that's what happened in my life also. My mother is like very amazed by, like, I'm not into any bad habits, and I send them like money, whatever, like whatever they need, So then she started liking what I'm doing, even though initially in my initial days I was very fanatic, but now she at least doesn't oppose anything that I do. She appreciates very much and so on. So yeah, that works actually. But yeah, so that really works. That rather than pounding the philosophy.
Yeah, actually, just one funny thing is that whenever so Radha and I make a video call with Gaur Kumar Prabhu's his mom, and his mom is a very ardent follower of Shirdi Sai Baba. So after that, every time we have the video call, after that, Radha gets into a trance of Sai Baba, and she keeps chanting the name Sai Baba, Sai Baba, Sai Baba, though almost like for an hour. So yeah, it's kind of easy to.
What is the purport here?
Nothing. It's just funny. I just said it's funny. I think that your mom is a better preacher.
Then, yes, that is a lesson for today. Okay. Okay. So Krishna Bhagwan ki jai. Hariva. So Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyo patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai. So Nupur, make a note that we stopped at which verse?
Yes, done, Prabhuji. I added in the Excel sheet. We stopped at 38 and we have to
38.
start with 39.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.